My family and I like to cruise on cruise ships. And a lot of the times we leave out of Galveston. How about you? Do you cruise? Well, I saw this interesting news report last weekend that was talking about a cruise ship, a Carnival cruise ship that had returned from a cruise to Galveston. And the guests on board were debarking. They were leaving the cruise ship. And all of a sudden, a 21-year-old male had some words with an older guy and assaulted him. Well, the next thing you know, 24 people are involved in some type of a large fight and assault and just going crazy. What can the cruise ships do about this? And what if you're there? What would you do if all this happened right in front of you to be safer and be secure with your family? We're going to talk about that today in our podcast. You're watching and listening to the SAFESECURE 360 podcast. There's safety in numbers.
Lieutenant Robert Henry is an honorably retired law enforcement commander from Houston with over 35 years of public service experience. I'm Daniel Ziegler. I've been asking questions all my life, and on this show, I do my best to ask the questions that the public would like to know the answer to. The SAFESECURE 360 podcast is intended to provide you, the listener, with information about current events and ongoing societal challenges to help make your life safer. Thank you for listening. This is the SAFESECURE 360 podcast. There is safety in numbers. Well, Robert, thanks for sitting down and talking with us. Like you said in the intro, in the weekend of April 27th and 28th, there was a public fight in the port of Galveston. There's a video of this. It's a little shocking. We'll show the video just so we can see what's going on, but when the video starts, one person is fighting off a large crowd of people, and they're all gathered around him and fighting him. And as we researched more and more into this, it starts to show this story about how a young man came up to an older guy and got in a verbal altercation with them, and the older guy even tried to de-escalate the situation. He said, "Don't do what you're about to do," which is probably something like I would do. So why don't we start with there? Let's say you're on a cruise ship, you're not exactly in control of who you're around. You can't just leave if you're on a cruise ship. If someone comes up to you and becomes aggressive with you, what's a good position to take or a way to de-escalate that situation?
Let's talk about just general conduct on a cruise ship and how that works and what the expectations are. I mean, is it safe for you to cruise? Is it safe for you to cruise on Carnival Cruise Lines or Princess or any of them? A cruise ship is private property. It's owned and managed and ran by a cruise ship company. If you decide you want to be a passenger and you want to enjoy that cruise and travel with them and enjoy all of the amenities that you get along with that travel, you buy a ticket. When you buy a ticket for yourself or family or everyone, you don't really read the fine print, but you're entering into a contract with the cruise ship that says basically, for this amount of money, I get to go on this cruise ship to these different ports. And while I'm on the cruise ship, I get to enjoy the food, the entertainment, the offering of alcoholic beverages. But there's also a lot of things you can't do while you're on the cruise ship. And that's a contract that you enter into. You probably never read it, but it is. So when you're allowed to go on a cruise ship, you are bound by the rules that they have on the cruise ship. The cruise ship may be in jurisdictional waters of the federal government. They may be in jurisdictional waters of Florida or the Bahamas or wherever they are. But ultimately, they may be in international waters where those rules of criminal statutes may not apply. So you're still bound by the rules of the cruise ship and the company. And if you violate them, things can happen to you.
Well, thank you all for watching and listening. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to our channel and click the like button on this episode. This will keep you up to date with what we're up to, and it will help our channel grow and reach new people. Like we always say, there is safety in numbers. On their website, they have a zero tolerance policy towards the more or less the basis of their rule is that they have a zero tolerance policy towards any illegal substance or any disruptive behavior. A big fight is certainly disruptive behavior, and illegal substances are mapped out really specifically about what is and isn't allowed on the cruise ship. So each of these people is a guest on the cruise ship, which is private property. And when they bought the ticket, they agreed to these rules, and then they were excluded from the ship for breaking these rules. That's what I understand you saying so far. And the cruise ship is well within their rights to exclude and ban these people. I was just reading the statements by them, and they felt very strongly that they want to protect their reputation in this, so they made a big deal about excluding these people. Is there something they could have done differently, or is this just the way to do it, just make a statement immediately and point to the policy?
Well, there's a couple of types of exposure when you engage in assaultive conduct like this or any other violation of the terms and conditions of the cruise ticketing process. Remember, it's a contract that you have with them that you're going to do certain things, they're going to do certain things, and if either side doesn't deliver on what they're doing, there could be different types of situations that occur, right? So not only are there criminal violations which you expose yourself to when you engage in criminal conduct like assault, however, there's also civil and house rule, carnival rules that you may have broken. And when that happens, the cruise line has the ability and almost the requirement that they enforce these rules, because think about it, it's just not you on the cruise ship. You're on there with 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,000 other people. So there's an expectation, if you're another family, that you're going to be able to cruise in peace, and these incidents won't happen. So there's a lot of different things they can do. Let's say that you're on board the ship already and you've been allowed to come on board, and cruise ships are known for eating and a lot of different foods, and a lot of them are included in the cruise ship price. They're also known for what else? Drinking. Drink, drink, drink. It's as soon as you get on the cruise ship, you're met by someone who has several drinks, and they just hand you one if you want one. And then it's just an alcohol-driven experience for a lot of people. They offer drink packages. They offer unlimited, no-charge drinks, alcoholic beverages. So you're going to a tropical destination typically. What's the theme there? Drink, drink, drink. So they're allowing you to drink, but they have limits on what type of behavior can be engaged in once you do the drinking. And when the behavior becomes out of bounds or out of balance with what is reasonable, and what may be reasonable on a cruise ship as a passenger versus in a bar in a country somewhere, may be two different things. There may be a little more levity and a little more margin on the cruise ship to allow you to have more and more fun. But at some point, when your fun becomes dangerous or disruptive to the cruise ship and to their staff and to other people, the cruise ship is going to take action.
And in the same way, when you are on the cruise ship as a peaceful person that does expect this safety, you do when you sign up for something like that. When you get on a plane or when you get on a cruise ship, you trust that the authority of this is going to help you stay safe and help your travel be a good one. As you're there, you might be drinking as well, and so your awareness may be altered. So what's a good way to stay? You're on a cruise ship because you want to have a vacation. You want to have a good time. But the reality is things like this sometimes happen on a cruise ship. It doesn't happen every day, and it's not a majority of the times at all. But how would you notice that something odd is going on, or that there's a warning sign of maybe something dangerous while you're on a cruise ship in vacation mode? How do you balance keeping an attention on safety and fun?
Well, if you've cruised before, you know that, let's just say on the Lido deck or the pool deck where everybody's gathered in a large group, they have music, a DJ, a pool, everyone's having a great time. That's expected. That's allowed conduct, and there's alcohol always served. So I think the word that you look for and the reasonable expectation that the cruise ship has is reasonable. Is the behavior, are they laughing? Are they screaming? Are they yelling? Are they splashing around? Are they having fun? That is probably reasonable behavior. So when that reasonable behavior now becomes physical in nature, where someone is hurting someone or attempting to hurt someone or chasing someone or clearly angry, and their persona has changed from an atmosphere of celebration into one of rage or anger or violence, that's a clear-cut example right there of how that can happen. And with 1,000 people out there on that deck, it's difficult to see that sometimes, but the fewer the people, the more evident it is, or the more violent the conduct is, the more requirement it is for that cruise ship staff to take action. They have security on cruise ships. And once again, I think the enforcement action on this, if you are intoxicated beyond normal limits of reasonable drinking for fun, I believe you'll be approached by a staff member, a uniformed staff member of the cruise ship, if not their security, and told, hey, listen, the conduct you're exhibiting, things that you're doing are alarming to other guests, or you cannot assault someone or hurt someone or have a fight with someone or have some extreme verbal engagement, argument with someone. You have to stop that conduct. You have to stop that behavior, or there's going to be problems for you. The cruise ship has a couple of different alternatives. They can fine a passenger for conduct. They can make you disembark the ship and not get back on. And as what happened in this Galveston thing with these 24 people, they were forever banned from Carnival Cruise Lines. SAFESECURE 360. We are a security consulting group located in the Woodlands, Texas. We assist our multiple clients by reducing the risk, loss, and reputation impact. We also do full security assessments on their facilities, large churches, large private schools in Texas, and we want to help you. Take a look at our website, safesecure360.com.
We talk about policy a lot on the show. It's interesting as I understand what policy was a word for me at first, but now I'm understanding it's like a protective layer for an organization. The security guard, when you mentioned coming up to somebody who's too intoxicated, they don't say, I've decided you're out of line. I, Bob, am going to take you out now. You can't do this. They say, our company policy says that you can't be this intoxicated on the ship. And it furthermore says it's time to go to your room. In the same way, this company used their policy to ban these people. What would it have looked like? What would be different if they didn't have such a good policy written that would exclude people from that? What would they be able to do as a response to this unruly action?
The policy of the cruise line makes the difference between an individual decision and a policy enforcement action. It's not Joe, the security officer's personal decision that he just thought, well, this probably would be a good thing to do. He is going to, or she is going to follow the policy of the cruise line that says, and the contract that you entered into says you must act reasonably while you're a guest on our ship. You must not engage in violent conduct. You must not engage in disruptive behavior that stops our process. You couldn't storm into the bridge of the ship where the captain's driving the ship and say, look, I want to drive. I mean, there's certain rules about where you can't go and what you can't do. So when the policy is the roadmap that tells their staff, look, here's what we do when this happens, and I'm sure there's trainings that they go through of dealing with people who are disruptive. So I think that there's many different levels of what could happen. You could try to warn them and say, look, you can stay here, but you have to stop that behavior. Number two, you could say you could stay here, but you cannot drink anymore. We refuse to serve you anymore. The third thing could be, look, you have to leave this area. And let's say you do, and next thing you know, you show up in another area and you're doing the same thing. The next higher step may be to restrict you and limit you to your cabin, where you can't leave your cabin. You're told, stay in your cabin. That may work. It may not work. You may object to that. You may think that this whole process is unfair, that you're not intoxicated. I think then at some point, a policy needs to be looked at by leadership of the cruise line on board. One of the officers or multiple people have to decide, look, you are a continuing threat to us. You are disrupting our cruise. We've tried to work this out with you. We could not. You will not cooperate with us. You continue to pose a threat. Maybe you ran from your room, or you're just, who knows? The last resort would be they have the ability to take you into custody, to restrain you and restrict your movements until they can arrive at a port where the local authorities could become involved.
The purpose of all of these policies is to protect the safety and well-being of the other people on board. When they must recognize that this is a closed area that people are on, and so everyone else's safety is related to each other person's decisions. So in the same way, if you're with let's say I'm with my family on a cruise, and I notice that there's starting to become a tense moment off the side of the music stage. There's two people yelling at each other. There's only so many places I could go, but I suppose I could leave the situation. Is that the best idea to do, just to remove myself and my family and friends from the situation? Is there anything else maybe I should talk to someone that works for the cruise line? What's a good train of thought for me to go through when if I find myself in a situation like that?
That's always a good choice. We talk about it when we teach run, hide, fight. Well, the first component of that is run. Well, break that down to this scenario where you're around a disturbance that's going on. I'm not encouraging you to run, but I'm encouraging you to leave that area. Now, should you have to do it? You shouldn't have to do it, but what's reasonable for you and your family? Is it better to just acquiesce to that and go ahead and leave that area? Now you're out of the problem. Now, as you're leaving, certainly you could approach a uniformed crew member and say, hey, look, we're leaving this pool area or wherever you're at, a restaurant, a bar, theater, wherever, because the guy over there in the red shirt is just going crazy. He's screaming, yelling. He pushed someone. We saw this happen, and we don't want to be around this and a part of this. You all should do something about this. So now you've done three things really. Number one, you've eyewitnessed an improper behavior in your opinion. Secondly, you have left that area and reduced your risk of being in danger. And the third thing you've done is you've reported this incident to someone who can make a difference. So those are three good steps to do. Remove yourself from the situation and report it is a great idea.
So these cruise lines also have a really I was actually laughing at the prohibited items list. Some of the items these are common sense items. It probably, they had to write this because somebody brought these on, but they prohibit weapons of all kinds and open flame sources and certain type of explosives all explosives and certain type of electronics that tend to overheat or explode. Why are they prohibiting so strictly all of these items? What's the big deal about these things?
It's not that the cruise lines are strict about this. A lot of public gatherings are strict about these items. Try going to a concert with a knife, or try bringing a flammable liquid into an airline. It's not going to happen. These are reasonable, excluded items that have no value and purpose in your flying, cruising, train, car experience. They have the right, again, in the contract that you agree to, that you will follow these rules. And you're reminded of them and these rules when you go and are gone through security, whether it's TSA or whether it's a cruise ship security or a train security, wherever. Whenever you're scanned or whenever your bag is searched or whenever you have a body search, or just a external search, you can't have those items. So now think about that. Flammable items or knives on a cruise ship that is out in the middle of the ocean, contained. Very bad. Fire on board a cruise ship is a very bad thing because you have very limited abilities to survive something like that if it was a terrible fire. So they're within their bounds, they're within their rights to reasonably post a prohibited items list. At a concert, they'll do it. They're everywhere. So my advice is bring things with you and enter those environments thoughtfully. And don't bring items that are going to exclude you, single you out, make you get rid of them. Just think about where you're going, think about what you're doing, take a look at the prohibited items list before you go, and be informed about what their expectations of you are.
You're right that this everything on their prohibited list is completely reasonable. There's no reason you wouldn't have to, if you were just going on a cruise to enjoy yourself, you wouldn't probably even think of bringing several of these items. But it's worth looking at these prohibited items list and the safety policy of anywhere where you're having a new experience. It's worth seeing how invested the company is into your safety. You can tell that this company, this is Carnival Cruise Ships, they care about their passengers enough to take action when something violates their safety policy. That's a really good look for them, and it further helps their reputation of being a company that takes care of their continued passengers. The reputation impact of something like this has a possibility to be something that takes away value from your company. We've talked about this before. Could you explain a little bit about the reputation impact of a fight at your business, for instance, and what the difference in that would be if you didn't make a good, strong decision about it?
Yeah, I think let's talk about cruise ships or any type of public transportation that you engage in as a paying customer. I think that the reputation impact is critically important because how many cruise ship lines are there? 20? More than 20? I don't know. But the big ones, Carnival, Princess, Royal Caribbean, that's the ones we go on, Celebrity. They are competitive. Why do you choose one brand over another? Is it reputation? Is it the schedule? Is it where they're going? Is it the price? All those things are factors that you consider. But if you have a bad reputation, let's say that this Carnival incident resulted in really severe injuries to someone or something, that's terrible. So you hear this story, the news covered it. It's a widely publicized story about this incident on this ship when it disembarked. Think about if it was at sea when this happened. Now you've got a contained ship with no external law enforcement interaction ability because you're at sea. So I think that a smart person who's going to cruise or fly or take a train may want to look at incidents or talk to friends and say, look, I'm thinking about going on Princess Cruise Lines. What do you think about that? Or I'm thinking about going on Virgin Cruise Lines. What do you think about them? And they may say, look, I've heard great things about them. Or did you see that article about the people that went crazy in Galveston getting off of a Carnival ship? I may not want to go on a Carnival ship. I may not want to go on a Regent ship. I may not want to go on. It may point me in a different direction from what I wanted to go on because of schedule, price, and destination.
Yeah, these news stories add up to people will forget about this news story, but if it's handled poorly, the reputation of this cruise line making a bad decision will last a really long time. So it seems like they made it's not my place to say, but it seems like they made a quick decision and they banned 24 people from live from all of their affiliate cruises, just citing their policy, saying this is not in line with this is not an appropriate way to treat the people around you while you're on a cruise ship. It just isn't. What else? Is there anything else that we can learn or understand about this? Getting on planes, taking public transport, these are times where you're around other people. Is there anything else we should keep in mind while we're traveling or on transportation devices with other people?
Well, the FAA in Title 49 and the talks about the federal rules required when you're a passenger on an aircraft. Let's switch gears now to airplanes. And you've certainly seen stories and reports about people that had to be duct taped, or that the flight, the passengers had to get this person, male or female, and subdue them because they were trying to open the aircraft door in flight, or they were trying to break into the cockpit, or they were trying to do something so disruptive that it couldn't be controlled. So there's a really good rule in the transportation code that the FAA also really talks about, and that's about interference with the duties of a flight crew member. And that could be a flight attendant, it could be a pilot, co-pilot, it could be anyone that works even for the airline who is in that aircraft environment and trying to keep things safe and trying to keep things balanced. And you exhibit conduct which is delays their ability to do their job, or stops their ability to do their job, or maybe you assaulted them, or maybe you've assaulted someone else on the aircraft. Maybe alcohol is involved. Interfering with those flight duties can be up to 20 years in prison and a fine, or both. It's a big deal. If you use a weapon in the course and commission of this interference, it's even worse. So it's really important to remember that you're a guest. You're a paying guest, but you're a guest on these modes of transportation. But so is everybody else around you. And they have the right to be safe and calm and not disturbed. And flying is a tense thing for some people. They're already nervous. So now you're ramping that up by this extra bad behavior. It's a bad idea. So there's laws that talk about that, and there's laws that talk about being intoxicated on an aircraft. And there's a whole set of standards and policies in the fine print that you agree to, whether you know it or not, when you buy your airline ticket, and they're reasonable.
The interesting thing about the airline is you're in such a closed space where very few people on the pilot and the co-pilot and maybe one other person know how to fly that aircraft, but interfering with their duties does seriously infringe on everyone else's right to safety. There must be special kinds of training and special policies they write as it starts to get into airline or cruise travel, or if it's some kind of other different circumstance, like a plane or a train around a mountain would be a different thing than a plane as well. Do these companies go through trainings and get prepared for situations like this? They must have some kind of training program where they learn how to enforce the policies and things like that. Do you have any insight into what that might look like?
Absolutely. Let's talk about aircraft for the first part. They're mandated to take certain types of training. And what are you training them for? Well, you're training them for 50 different emergency situations, but you're also training them to identify persons who may be intoxicated, identify persons who may be very angry, identify persons who may be very disturbed or in conflict with another passenger. They're trained to quickly identify them. And here comes the intoxication part again, and the alcohol. It's the nexus in the cruise ship. It's the nexus in the airplane. Now you're at 40,000 feet or however high you are, trapped in a cylinder that's flying through the air at 500 miles an hour with other people, and nobody's going anywhere. So now you begin this series of conduct that interferes with the operation of the flight attendant or of the crew members, and then also you start endangering other people. So yes, they're trained in de-escalation techniques. They're trained in trying to work this out from a customer service perspective. They're trained in cautioning you and trying to maybe move your seat or trying to in some way calm you down. If that's unsuccessful, then they would report this incident or your behavior to the flight crew, to the captain, the co-pilot. The captain is the ultimate decision maker while you're in the air. The captain, he or she, is in charge of that aircraft and everything that goes along with it. And their primary responsibility is to provide a safe transport of you and them to where you're going. And if you start coming on the radar with behavior that's disruptive or dangerous, they're going to make decisions for you. And also remember, other passengers may decide also, hey, you're a risk to this aircraft. I'm a passenger. My family's on here. Guess what? We're not going to let you do that. So then passengers, sometimes you've seen in reports, they take action. They'll grab the person. They'll get some tape or they'll get something and they'll subdue them until the aircraft can land. Now what's going to happen is the aircraft may declare an emergency, or they may declare an urgent need to deviate from their intended destination. Let's say they're going from Houston to New York City. Now all of a sudden you're over Memphis and this starts occurring. You may have to divert and land in Memphis to allow external law enforcement to come on board and take that person off or in custody. So what has that done? Has that significantly interfered with the transit of the aircraft? Yes. Has that interfered with the duties of the flight crew? Yes. Now you're landing somewhere, and look what it does to the delay of all the passengers on there and their connecting flights. It's all messed up, right? So it's a big deal to behave yourself reasonably in any of these transportation environments. You've heard of the no-fly list. You could be placed on the no-fly list for a lot of different reasons, external affiliations or external conduct. However, aircraft conduct also can get you on that list where you just can't fly anymore because you are a risk. You are a danger to that commerce, and they're going to stop you.
The goal of these policies and these no-fly lists and banning these people is because these companies want their customers to feel safe when they're on board. They want to lift the plane off and have it land and have another sunny day in New York now. That's how they want these things to go. And all of these policies are reasonable and are just trying to sort of subconsciously push everybody towards reasonable action. And they're focused a lot on de-escalation too. I think that's a really big thing that we could use more of around this time. Is de-escalation techniques are very interesting. And these, when we talk about training, that's always something that comes up, is the de-escalation of heightened emotions is what's going on here. So we've had all this talk about these policies and the safety and why it's going on. Is there anything else we should understand when we're going on vacation or going to travel? No matter what route of transport we travel, there's probably a safety policy. And maybe reading that would help us inform us. Anything else we should keep in mind while we're traveling?
I think a smart traveler would look on the company's website that whether it's a cruise ship, a train, whatever airplane that you're going to go on, and review their prohibited conduct items and prohibited items. Now, for the airline may be different. Southwest may be different than United, may be different from Frontier or different from American. So familiarize yourself with them. Bring normal things with you. Don't bring things that would be on that list with you to the airport environment. And then I think also now, if you're traveling domestic versus international, whenever we fly internationally, there are different rules for United going to Europe or Lufthansa going to Europe or Emirates going to Europe. So the rules may change. There may be some additional rules that you need to follow, be prepared for. So a smart traveler would look at those rules, take a glance at them, and understand anything that's unusual that stands out, and be prepared when they travel.
Well, thank you for your time, Robert. This is interesting stuff. And we like always, we just want people to balance thinking about safety with balance having a good time. So if you're out on vacations, happy travels, and we hope this is a helpful and informational episode for you. As always, there is safety in numbers. This is the SAFESECURE 360 podcast. Thank you for listening. The information provided in our podcasts is for general information uses only and is not intended as legal advice. The views and opinions expressed by the guests are their own. Always consult with a qualified professional before making safety and security decisions. For more information about this topic, check out our website at safesecure360.com.